He also heads the list of top-paid non-quarterbacks in the NFL. Lou Riddick still here with us. Stephen A., how confident are you that Garrett will avoid future incidents of this kind?
I'm very confident because I don't think he's a stupid guy. The fact of the matter is it was very, very foolish and irresponsible for him to do what he did. I thought that the suspension, in the interest of full disclosure, if we recall, I thought that the suspension should have been longer. I wasn't saying like a full season or anything like that, but I thought at least a few games into this upcoming season just to remind everybody that that's certainly something you can't tolerate. You can't take off a quarterback's helmet and then swing it and connect with his head. You cannot do that, even though to some degree it was instigated by that quarterback. Nevertheless, Myles Garrett lost his way, and it was foolish of him to do, and it was a very dangerous thing for him to do, and you've got to set the example if you're the National Football League, not just by suspending him for that season, but a few games into this season. But I ain't blind. He's 24 years of age. He's had 23 and a half sacks the last 2 seasons in the National Football League. He's only entering his 4th year. Again, he's 24 years of age. He is a superstar in the making in terms of his position. I mean, when outside of Aaron Donald, who are we not going to mention his name in the same breath as? And so when you look at it from that perspective, combined with what the Cleveland Browns are trying to build there, you got a new coach in Stefanski, you got a new GM in Berry, you've got Odell Beckham Jr. and Jarvis Landry there, and those boys with Baker Mayfield as your quarterback, with Chubb and Hunt as your running backs. You're loaded, and you can make things happen potentially. You don't look at a young lion like this and hold that against him into perpetuity and allow this to stain his career. You let others do that, but you as an organization that has his rights and has him wearing your uniform, you take care of him to the best of your abilities, because this guy is going to help you win football games. And by the way, I think it was a one-time incident. I don't consider him to be somebody that would be stupid enough to do something like this again. We move on, we forgive, we don't forget, but we forgive and we move forward and give an opportunity for this guy to have a second chance to redeem himself. I'm totally in support of it. I think he's worth every penny, and I'm glad he got the money.
Sure, I'm happy for him that he got paid. He deserves it as a player. And recall that I defended him. It's like the only one, really,
you did.
One of few, who defended him in the Mason Rudolph incident. I felt Mason Rudolph instigated. I thought he then continued to do it, raised the stakes, the whole thing. And that was not a popular stance to take. So it's not that I think what Myles Garrett did eliminates him from, huge contracts in the future, and I think he earned his on the field. But to say that I'm totally confident he'll never have another incident, no, I'm not. And the reason is not just the Mason Rudolph incident. Let me start by saying, yes, Myles Garrett's smart. You hear him talk. You see he's an intelligent guy. He is cultured. He has interests other than football and is a cerebral guy. Those things are all true, but we are all human beings with impulses, with lesser impulses. And some of us, and it's not always connected to how smart you are or how cultured you are, have a problem controlling those impulses in the moment of truth. He may be one of those guys, because it's not like he didn't already have a reputation as being somewhat dirty. Recall the Trevor Siemian incident against the Jets, right? He had multiple penalties called against him and ended Siemian's season. So afterwards, he was like, look, people on this team, people who know me in this locker room, they know what I'm about. It's true, if you talk to Myles Garrett, I'm sure, and you hear him in interviews, you see that he's considerate and he is introspective and he knows right from wrong clearly. That's different than a guy who is a hothead, or a guy who in those moments the impulse gets the better of him. We've seen that, all of us. That's been true of all of us. But we've seen that from Myles Garrett in highly public incidents so far. And he was not chastened by the Siemian incident, because then the Mason Rudolph incident happened. We'll see if he's chastened by this. This was so public, and the outcry was so great that perhaps it will. But it's one thing to understand something intellectually, and it's another thing to change emotionally. I would be a little wary were I the Browns.
Yeah, I would say I'm hopeful that he'll avoid similar incidents, in the future, because Look, obviously that was something, and just to go on the record myself and say, look, that was something that I was very disturbed by when I saw it. And look, I played the game at that level. I understand that emotions run high. I understand that sometimes you have thoughts in your head when you're playing the game that, you know what, you wouldn't necessarily want to have everyone else know what you're thinking and the kind of mind frame that you put yourself in order to play the game at the professional level. That still doesn't excuse you swinging what amounts to a weapon at someone's exposed head. That just doesn't excuse that. So I guess in that regard, I think going forward, I would hope that Myles has reviewed the situation enough and talked to enough people about it and kind of looked inside himself enough to say, hey, look, that's something I can't ever repeat again. And I would hope, and I would assume, obviously, that Jimmy and Dee Haslam, the owners of the Cleveland Browns, given the investment that they have made in Myles and the way in which they have stood behind him from day one up until now, when they are giving him a contract that is obviously very, very rich and very, very market setting in terms of how you would characterize it, I would hope that they have vetted this situation to the point where they reasonably can deduce that Myles won't engage in this kind of behavior going forward again, unless there's something that they don't know. Can you ever just absolutely guarantee it? No, Max, and you laid that out. But obviously, I mean, you know what? The game is about managing risk. It's about managing risk on the field. It's about managing risk when you're signing people to contracts. Look, Myles has earned this. I mean, he is he's truly an elite player. He has 30.5 sacks in 37 games played, 32 tackles for loss. That's enough said right there. And Stephen A., as you said, he's 24 years old. He's still going to get better.
Well, I want to say this. There's a couple of things we got to consider. Number one, listen to this, Max. Number one is your level of production on the field. For example, we know what he's going to do. But now you got Olivia Vernon there. You got Sheldon Richardson there. You got Denzel Ward still in the crew. You got Greedy Williams, that guy out of LSU, in his second year. I mean, you got a situation right now where they got an opportunity to do things. But we also got to take this into consideration as to why he's going to be incentivized to act right. Number two, you don't want to lose no more money, do you? You don't want to get yourself suspended indefinitely, do you? Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming, sports, and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.